We've just finished a long...
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has spoken by telephone with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. The conversation breaks with U.S. policy set in 1979 when formal diplomatic ties were cut. Washington backs Beijing's One China stance, which states Taiwan is a province of China. Taiwan is not recognized as a sovereign state by many countries and is not a member of the United Nations. The conversation was affable, according to Taiwanese spokesperson Alex Huang. During the conversation, President Tsai and President-elect Trump not only had a friendly talk, but also shared their views on a few points about future policies, especially enhancing local economic development and strengthening national defense, including providing better living and security to Taiwanese people. The Chinese say the call was just a petty trick by Taiwan, and current U.S. thinking on Taiwan will remain.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Joining me now, Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson radio show, Nayyera Haq, who was a former State Department spokesperson for Secretaries Clinton and Kerry, with some perspective here. David Gergen, advisor to 4 presidents, including Reagan and Clinton, worked with Nixon, knows a lot about China. And, of course, Ivan Watson is back with me. Let me start with you, Ben. You just heard Ambassador Hill. This is a real break with policy. Trump is winging it. You heard Senator Murphy say this is how you start wars. Does Trump know what he's doing?
This may be the most calm I've ever been on your show. 1, this is not winging it. 2, I think this was simply a phone call. And 3, I think this can be used for leverage when you're dealing with China and when it comes to trade deals. This was well thought out by Donald Trump and the people around him. The other thing is, this is not going to start a war. This is a simple phone call. There are many people that say Trump is winging it. This was well thought out by him and I think his team. And the other point I think that should be made here is let's not overreact to this. When Barack Obama made phone calls to Cuba and changed things down there drastically, much of that was done in private. I think a lot of people appreciate the fact that we know about this early on before he's even been sworn in.
What do you think about that, David? It's an interesting point that Ben's saying. It's a simple phone call. Look, no president has made such a simple phone call to Taiwan's leader in 37 years. But is Trump right to throw protocol out? Because, by the way, keeping protocol in one China has not stopped China from going against the United States in military buildup in the South China Sea, in North Korea, or in trade.
Well, Donald Trump has given new meaning to an old phrase, a bull in a china shop. I'm among those who was seriously taken aback by learning about the call. This has been the most carefully thought out relationship for years and years by Republicans and by Democratic presidents, going all the way back to Richard Nixon, that it's important to maintain a one China policy, carefully preserving the independence of Taiwan, but also while ensuring the Chinese don't cross the straits and attack Taiwan and take it over. At the same time, convincing the Taiwanese that they cannot go independent. As you know, the Taiwanese government has a rather new administration now in place that leans very heavily toward independence. And for Donald Trump to make this call is going to infuriate the Chinese, because they're going to see he's actually making a huge shift in policy. And if that is the case, it's going to cause a serious disruption in our relationship with China.
And Ivan, would you say infuriate is the right word?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the Taiwanese feel very, very isolated. So anytime when they see some semblance of international recognition, they're delighted. They celebrated that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Nayyera, now, President Obama sold Taiwan nearly $2 billion in weapons, something Ivan talked about a moment ago. That deeply angered China, but he kept the one China policy intact, right? So he kind of said one thing and did another. What's really so different between that and Trump saying, well, guess what? I'm going to come out and say, enough dancing around the issue here. I'm going to say and do the same thing. I'm going to put it out there publicly. Is that so wrong?
Well, there's different layers and degrees of what's public, right? So President Obama had made sure that there was some kind of conversation happening with China, but in the diplomatic community and the way things work around the rest of the world, in our relationship with the rest of the world, when you suddenly talk to a foreign head of state, it elevates everything. And to certainly do that before you're even in office is unprecedented. Now, certainly, this is the president-elect, and he had to decide to change policy. But really what's concerning about this is that it doesn't seem to be be based on any type of strategy or recognition of the relationship and the importance with U.S. economy has with China. For example, China has the largest foreign debt holder of the United States. They have a big influence on our economy, which is part of the reason why we try to play nice in the sandbox with them. And then on top of that,
with all due respect, this goes back to Donald Trump's campaign promise, where he said China has been getting the better of us for the last 15, 20 years. Look at what China's been doing with building islands in the middle. Hold on, let me finish.
Let's talk. In the middle of nowhere. Let's finish.
Which one has been more aggressive towards the United States?
America's been sitting back. Let's talk about building.
Currency issues or trade war issues or their military expansion and building islands in the middle of nowhere. What Donald Trump did today was saying, guess what? You're not going to keep pushing us around. And he made a simple phone call. If people freak out in China over this, that's what their media, which is a propaganda media, is going to sell, because that's what the leaders tell them.
Final word to you, Nair.
It's not a simple phone call.
This is exactly what we're concerned about, is the buildings that are going on in the Trump universe. Actually, the only evidence we have of any strategy behind this is confirmation from a mayor in Taiwan that Trump has explored and declared interest in building hotels in Taiwan. The American public has an expectation that when the president engages with foreign leaders, it's for the safety and security of the United States and for the advancement of the American economy, not of Trump International.
All right. Thank you very much. An interesting point. Thanks to all. Next, Trump